You have three children. The youngest is barely walking. Food has been getting harder to find for weeks, and this morning your hunting party came back with nothing again. There's another group 2 valleys over. You've seen their fires at night. You know they have more people, more hands, more chances at a kill. But you also know something else. Joining them means giving something up. Position, territory, maybe even one of your own daughters, promised to a man in their group you've never spoken to.
So you make a choice. You stay. You tell yourself you can make it through the season alone. That decision, made in one afternoon over one conversation, might be the reason nobody alive today shares your blood. For most of human history, the biggest threats weren't just cold or hunger or predators. Sometimes the thing that ended a bloodline forever was a single choice made by one person who had no idea how much was riding on it. Today, a bad decision costs you money, maybe a relationship. You buy the wrong car, you say the wrong thing at dinner, you lose a job. It stings, but life goes on. There's always another chance, another paycheck, another day to fix it.
For a small band of early humans, some decisions didn't come with a next chance. And the scary part is, the decision that mattered most almost never looked dangerous in the moment. It looked like an ordinary choice, made on an ordinary day. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your ancestors didn't live in cities. They lived in tiny groups. Anthropologists estimate most bands were somewhere between 25 and 50 people, sometimes fewer. That's it. That's the whole world for that person. Every skill they'd ever learn, every person they'd ever love, every threat they'd ever face came from inside that small circle. And a group that small has a hidden problem. It's too small to survive on its own for very long.
Every person in that group is related to almost everyone else, closer than you'd think. Cousins marrying cousins, second cousins having children with second cousins. Generation after generation, the same small pool of genes circling back on itself. Geneticists have a name for what happens next. It's called a genetic bottleneck. And when a population narrows down too far, bad mutations that would normally get diluted out start stacking up instead. Birth defects increase, miscarriages increase, children die younger, and more of them are born unable to survive at all. This is not a slow problem. It can happen in 2 or 3 generations, and once it starts, it's incredibly hard to reverse from the inside. There was only one real solution. You had to trade people. Bands would send daughters, sometimes sons, to marry into other groups miles away. It wasn't romantic, it was survival math. New blood in exchange for new blood out. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies today, groups that still live close to how our ancestors did, have found this pattern almost everywhere they look. Marriage alliances between distant bands weren't a nice to have. They were the thing standing between a lineage continuing or quietly ending.
So imagine you're the leader of a small band and another group offers an alliance. Maybe it means giving up a daughter. Maybe it means merging territories with people you don't fully trust yet. It feels like a loss in the moment. It feels like giving something away for nothing back. But refuse that offer, generation after generation, and your group turns inward. The same names marrying the same names, the gene pool getting smaller and smaller, like a lake with no river feeding into it. Archaeologists and geneticists studying isolated populations, ancient and modern, have found something chilling in the DNA. Some small, cut-off groups just vanish from the genetic record within a handful of generations. Not from a flood, not from a predator, not from famine. From something as quiet as staying too isolated for too long.
There's a place in Portugal, a cave system called Sioclavina, where researchers pulled ancient DNA from remains going back tens of thousands of years. And what they found, in some of these very old populations, is evidence of exactly this. Long stretches of inbreeding. Small, isolated groups that simply weren't bringing in enough new blood, and the health cost written directly into their bones and their genome. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. It's not always about population size or luck or bad weather. Sometimes it comes down to one person, in one moment, choosing pride over practicality. A leader who refuses an alliance because of an old grudge. A father who won't let his daughter go because he can't stand the idea of losing her. A group that decides they don't need anyone else. Right up until they desperately do, and by then, it's too late to ask. You don't get a warning sign when this happens. There's no dramatic moment where fate announces itself. Just an ordinary decision made by an ordinary person that quietly closes a door nobody realized was the only one. And this is where it gets personal, because here's the truth. You exist right now because somewhere, dozens of times, over hundreds of generations, somebody made the opposite choice. Somebody sent their daughter across the mountain to marry a stranger. Somebody swallowed their pride and joined the other group instead of starving alone. Somebody said yes to the alliance they didn't want to make. You are the end result of thousands of decisions that could have gone the other way and didn't. Which means somewhere out there, other family lines existed too. People just as real, just as loved, just as determined to survive as your ancestors were.
And at some point, one decision, one refusal, one choice made out of fear or pride or bad timing ended them. Not violently, not all at once, just quietly, over a generation or two, until there was no one left carrying that particular thread forward. That's the part that should stick with you. Extinction, on the scale of a family line, doesn't usually look like a disaster. It looks like an ordinary Tuesday where someone said no instead of yes. So the next time you think about what it took for you to be sitting here, watching this, alive, breathing, existing at all, remember it wasn't inevitable. It was fragile. It hinged on people you will never know, making choices they didn't understand the weight of at exactly the right moment. And if even one of them had chosen differently, you wouldn't be here to wonder about it at all. But staying alive was never just about food or fire or shelter. Sometimes survival depended on something far stranger, who you were willing to trust. And that decision, the one about who to let in and who to keep out, might be the most dangerous choice your ancestors ever had to make.